What's up, everybody? How's it going? Waiting for some folks to join us. Let me see if this is working. Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing? I know it's a Saturday night, so I'll make sure to post this when we're all wrapped up. Hey, everyone. What's up? But I want to talk about, someone said that's an incredible plant. Thank you. Fun fact about this plant right here is that I first got this tree when it was like this big, and it was one of the first things I got when I got to Washington, and I got it from a local plant store, and it was this big, and now it's grown into this big thing. Anyways, hey everyone. I want to talk about a bunch of things. I know there's been a ton of stuff going on in the news. I know it's been a while since I've been on live, but obviously also I've been seeing a lot of you all on the road. But I want to talk about some of what we can do right now, actually. This is a very important week. I know that, can you all hear me? Someone said they can't hear. Can you all hear me? I know that this is a super important week. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure the microphone isn't covered. Ooh. Can you all hear me? Okay, so I know this is a very important week, and I want to talk to you about some of these things because there's so much happening in the news, and once again, we have to make sure that we are not in a reactive state. I know there is a lot of crazy, dangerous, terrible things that are going on. It does not mean that we don't care about them, but it's that they always want us on our back foot, reacting to things that have just happened. We can do that, but they also don't want us on our front foot preparing for what they are going to do next. And what I want to talk to you all about today is some of the things that they are planning to do next week and how we can prepare, because we have a very unique opportunity to derail and get ahead of the game and derail what they are about to do. And I want to talk to you about that because I've talked in past lives about how the number one priority for Republicans this year is to pass this massive tax cut for the rich and to attack and gut Medicaid in order to pay for it. And one of the first major steps that we have that they are going to be doing to proceed on that process is next week. It's on Tuesday so far. And so I want to talk about what we can do to prepare for that next week. And yes, I will be answering some of your questions and talking about some of the other stuff that's going on. We saw some of the horrible stuff that happened in Newark. ICE, making sure ICE kind of arresting the mayor of Newark and some other things that are going on. So I'll talk about that, but I want us to get ahead of the game. Right now, there is a link in my bio, Ocasio-Cortez.com/Save Medicaid. I want to talk about what's about to happen on Tuesday and what we can do to change what is going on, and also some of the things that are happening within the Republican Party. So first and foremost, on Tuesday, like about a month ago or so, Republicans put budget instructions on the floor of the House, and they voted to direct the Energy and Commerce Committee to cut $880 billion from their budget. Now, when you look at the numbers, given some of the guidelines and parameters that they put down, the lion's share of that $880 billion is going to be cut from Medicaid. Medicaid is the largest, is one of the largest, if not the largest health insurer in the United States of America. Out of every 5 Americans, 1 is covered by Medicaid. So 1 in 5 Americans is covered in whole or in part by Medicaid. So we are talking about one of the largest blows to healthcare in the United States. And they want to do that because they need to cut $880 billion from Medicaid in order to pay for and finance their tax cuts for billionaires. And that's the board that we've got going on right now. Now, someone said Medicaid is for Americans only. That's correct. Anyone that's telling you that there's all this stuff happening in Medicaid is largely lying to you, to be honest with you. In fact, undocumented people, let me just start off with that piece. Undocumented people pay billions of dollars in federal taxes to help finance programs that they are ineligible for. Okay? So anyone who tells you that undocumented people are all getting Medicare and all this other stuff, that's simply not true. It's just not true. They pay taxes. They may pay for your Medicaid, but they're not paying for their own Medicaid. I'll tell you that much. Now, here's the thing. And that's the first distraction, number 1, right? Is trying to get you to cut your own health insurance because they're trying to get people all twisted up into believing that their health care and that the problems in this country is their neighbor instead of the actual billionaires that are literally putting everything in motion to steal your health care to pay for their tax cuts. So don't fall for the rope-a-dope, okay? That's what's happening here. Now, number 2 is this hearing is happening on Tuesday. There are 20-something members, Republican members on the Energy and Commerce Committee. This year, I was appointed to this committee. So I have front row center seats to what is going on. And that's why I'm telling you about it right now. Many of the Republicans on the Energy and Commerce Committee that have to vote to proceed on these cuts are from swing districts, okay? That means we have an opportunity. Everyone on this is not a committee where everyone is in a Republican plus 30 seat. There are people that are in, there's something known as a Cook report score, which is basically like the margin of victory. There are 2 Republicans that are in dead even seats, R+0. There are, I think, about 5 Republicans that have a less than 5-point margin on their Cook score. And I think there's about 12 that are less than 10. That means we have an opportunity here. And that means the time is now to be blowing up the phones of the Republican members on this committee in the next 72 hours, okay? Within the next 72 hours. Making sure that means, and maybe a little bit longer than that, because that means we can be, and even though it's the weekend, you can leave a voicemail today, you can leave one tomorrow, you can have your nice Mother's Day brunch, and then after that, make your phone call, or you can make it on Monday and Tuesday. This markup, this is something known as a markup, this hearing on this bill is currently scheduled. Sometimes they change it, but it's currently scheduled to start on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Someone said, who are the Republicans on this committee? If you click on the link in my Instagram bio, or if you just go to ocasio-cortez.com/Save Medicaid, you can see what some of that stuff is. You can type in your zip code and you can see if you are represented by one of those members on the committee or not. And you can make a phone call. If you type in your zip code and if your member is on that committee, It also populates a call script if you need help knowing what to say when you want to call them. Of course, if you want to say your own thing, that's more than fine. But the call script is there to help give you a guide if you'd like it. Now, and yes, it's the Energy and Commerce Committee. Now, there are different parts of reconciliation that are going to move through different committees. After Energy and Commerce, it's going to move through the Budget Committee, which is different, which is a different set of members. But the Energy and Commerce Committee is one of the most important places where we can move this stuff through. They're also going to be attacking SNAP through the Agricultural Committee and a bunch of other stuff too. But the crown jewel, one of the crown jewels of what they're going for is Medicaid. Again, they're also going to try to cut SNAP in order to pay for tax cuts for Elon and billionaires and the 1%. And by the way, for I see a comment that says $38 trillion in debt. Yeah, these bills explode the national debt and the national deficit. In fact, Donald Trump's 2017 tax cut bill also exploded the national debt and the national deficit. Because guess what? When billionaires and mega corporations in this country don't pay into the taxes like you do, then we have very few things. It reduces the amount of income that we have in order to pay for a properly functioning, developed society. And so if you are concerned about our national debt and national deficit, I sure hope you support raising and actually just returning to normal taxation levels for the wealthiest people and corporations in America. But the answer is not going to be in cutting Medicaid. That's first and foremost. Number two, they love to talk about waste, fraud, and abuse. But if that were true, the cuts to any waste, fraud, and abuse that they identify should be reinvested into more efficient delivery of these programs. If you find that, oh wait, we have found that we could make this process more efficient, then make it more efficient and expand the amount of healthcare provisions that are available to people. But that's an aside. The answer is not in cutting veterans care as they've been doing. The answer is not in defunding the PACT Act as they've been doing, because I'll tell you, our service members go abroad and they breathe in air from burn pits and they get exposed to toxic inhalations. Their health care should be covered. And you shouldn't be making a buck off of the misery and off of defunding healthcare for service members. Anyways, I will continue. We have an opportunity to stop this, and we have an opportunity to act right now. So my first ask is to go to that link in my bio and see if one of your members is represented on the Energy and Commerce Committee. And if you type in your zip code, it will tell you that. Sorry, I've got a computer in front of me for light. If type in your zip code, it will tell you if you are represented, and if you are, then it will give you the call script. It'll tell you everything that you need to do. And yes, you can make pressure calls on Republicans, but it is also important to give positive calls to Democrats who are standing up and doing the right thing. All too often in politics, people engage in all sticks and no carrots. And I do think that it's important. You have to show two things at once. Both that, one, if an elected official is doing something that you oppose, that you will also oppose them. But two, that if a politician is standing up and does do the right thing, that there is actually a constituency for doing the right thing, and that people are willing to take action to support that. So positive things are just as important to positive things are just as important to do as tough love. It said that it was like pausing it. Anyways, so that's first and foremost that I want to talk to you all about. Save Medicaid. And by the way, I want to get a little bit more granular as well. There are members on the Energy and Commerce Committee from states all across the country. From Michigan, you've got Gabe Evans in Colorado. We did one of our rallies in Greeley in his district. We've done rallies in other Republican districts as well. These are very, very close, tight, and competitive seats. And if they are able to hear from their constituents, and if they're able to respect their constituents' desires, which is possible in these kinds of close seats, then we may be able to slow down this bill or stop it altogether. And if we are able to stop it altogether, then we are also able to save Medicaid. And I want to tell you, again, do not give up on this, because the pressure is starting to work. Donald Trump and Steve Bannon, one of his top political strategists, are realizing how many people in this country are on Medicaid and how many Republicans are actually on Medicaid. There are lots of Republicans who receive government programs and government benefits who, in order for them to sustain this, they convince everybody that somehow like a bunch of undocumented people are taking all the Medicaid in this country, which is not true. They want to lie and say that all like their new thing is able-bodied men, as though there's like millions and millions and millions of like 20-year-old guys that have like somehow fraudulently taking Medicaid. Also not true. Medicaid is already one of the most efficient government programs in the United States. Like literally all the fat from it has already been trimmed. And if you're on Medicaid, you probably already know that. So what they are saying, because Trump's popularity is tanking due to these boneheaded ass backwards tariffs that he's put on, because their popularity is tanking because of all this crazy stuff that they're doing, snatching women and babies off the street who have done nothing wrong, tearing people apart, tearing communities apart. Now they're already on the defensive and they cannot take this blow on Medicaid. And so Trump has been making calls to Republicans in the House saying, we don't know if we can cut Medicaid. And that creates a big problem for them, because they have no way of paying for these tax cuts for Elon and all of their donor class without touching Medicaid. They don't know how to do it. They can't figure it out. And so Trump and the White House are starting to crack on this. And that is why I am telling you this. I am not here to give you any BS. When I tell you to make a call, I don't tell you this in circumstances when I don't think it's going to make any difference. This will make a difference. And so we need to be ahead of the ball. This is an opportunity. And this is an opportunity where we can start to mobilize in the next 72-ish hours that can change an outcome. And that is because we are here to talk to you about something before it happens. And so I want to tell you about that because, as I mentioned, there are a lot of states. A lot of people don't know, no matter where you are in this country, whether you're a New Yorker like me, whether you're a Michigander, whether you're from Pennsylvania, Colorado, huge amounts of your state budget comes from Medicaid. Because the way Medicaid works is that the way Medicaid gets dispersed is actually by the states. And so Medicaid is paid for by a combination of state and federal match money. In wealthier states, the federal match is lower. So, for example, in New York, the match is 1-to-1. For every $1 that New York spends, the federal government spends $1. Other states, like Kentucky, they actually get a higher federal match, where 70% of their Medicaid, or around 70% of their Medicaid disbursements are paid by the federal government, and 30% are paid by the state. And so what that means is that for so many state budgets, a huge amount of the money that comes in for the state budget in general comes in through Medicaid financing. And so if you touch Medicaid, you are also blowing a massive hole in a lot of state budgets, which are going to affect schools, which are going to affect lots of other things to make up the difference. And so I have some numbers here that I want to tell you about because I have pulled up some of the Medicaid. So for example, in Pennsylvania, 40% of the Pennsylvania state budget is comprised of the state and federal match for Medicaid. 40%. In Nevada, 32% of the entire Nevada state budget is tied to Medicaid. In Colorado, Gabe Evans's district, 36% of the entire Colorado state budget is composed of the Medicaid state and federal match. This is one of the reasons why they are going after Medicaid. Because if you go after Medicaid, you start an entire domino effect on state budgets. And so what they're trying to do is gut a lot of the federal matching and the federal finance, and then they're going to gut state budgets down the board. And, you know, this isn't just blue states. North Carolina, 31% of that state budget is Medicaid. This is going to affect red states. It's going to affect blue states. It's going to affect everybody. And they are tricking people into thinking that they can support this whole waste, fraud, and abuse narrative, but the numbers do not add up. In fact, I've been sitting through all these committee hearings. The highest number that the Republican Party has advanced forward in terms of what can be attributed to quote unquote waste, fraud, and abuse. And mind you, not a single investigation has been put in front of the Energy and Commerce Committee to back these numbers up. But the highest number they have is $50 billion. Even if you believe everything that they say with no evidence, if they've identified $50 billion in waste, fraud, and abuse, why are they cutting $880 billion, nearly $1 trillion? The math is not mathing. And the reason for it is because they have been assigned to find $880 billion because they are going to give $880 billion to billionaires. 2 billionaires in tax cuts. And so, again, I want you all, I'm giving you all this information, not to frustrate it, not to paralyze you, but to say that is why you should go to the link in my bio, look up, see if your representative is on that committee, and make a call and tell them, do not vote for this reconciliation bill. Do not vote for this markup bill. And if you are represented by a Republican who's not on the committee, it'll still kick you a call script in order to give a general call to them, because that vote will be coming to the floor eventually, and everyone's going to have to vote for it, or vote on it, rather. So I wanted to speak on that to you all, because in the next 72 hours, we have an opportunity. The Trump administration is already starting to crack on this. They are already starting to give way on this because MAGA's on Medicaid. And one of the differences that we have is that we fight for everyone to have a good life in this country. Even if you're a Republican, even if you voted for Donald Trump, I believe healthcare is a right, and I believe that you should have healthcare too. I don't care who you voted for. I'm trying to look out for y'all. So that is something that we can do right now in this moment, and we've prepared all the toolkits ready for that. So thank you. Some other things in terms of order to speak on, I'm happy to take some of your questions now, but it was so important, and I wanted to get this message out to you all as well, because in the next 72 hours, we have an opportunity to make a difference and to change the game. So thank you all so much. Someone said, just called, left a message. Thank you. Yes, I love to see that. Just instant action. That's what it's all about. I so really appreciate you all. And that's all it takes, just quick call. It literally takes 5 minutes. If you don't like talking on the phone, Saturday is an amazing day to call because you go straight to voicemail and you can leave a voicemail and they'll log it for you. So thank you all so much. Again, link is in my bio. And it's Ocasio-Cortez.com/Save Medicaid. Someone said, if we call Tuesday night, is that too late? No, it's not too late. I want to tell you, in fact, what is going to happen on Tuesday. So this markup is going to start currently scheduled to start at Tuesday at 2 p.m. It will be live streamed on C-SPAN and probably on some other places. Like you can probably find it on YouTube and what have you. And what's going to happen on Tuesday is that these amendments are, well, first and foremost, they're going to gavel in. They're going to introduce this bill. Everyone is allowed to issue an opening statement. So all, I think, around 50-something members of the committee will be giving at least a 3-minute opening statement, and then we go to markup. Now, what that means is that everyone is allowed to introduce amendments. And so Democrats are going to be issuing plenty of amendments to this bill, and we're going to drag this thing out, okay? We're going to make this, we are going to grind this thing to a halt. I will be introducing amendments. The chairman will be introducing amendments. Every single member of the committee will be introducing amendments to this bill. We are not going to let them do this in any kind of easy way. I'm ready. I'm going to be physically preparing. You know, I'm going to be staying in a seat for double-digit hours, and we are going to make sure that this happens. Their goal, what Republicans are trying to do, is that they're going to try to finish this probably by Wednesday at midnight. We may go longer. I don't know. We may be there till 11 p.m., midnight, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I wouldn't be surprised if we were there even longer, because we're going to do everything that we can to grind this process to a halt, to give you all as much time as possible to continue to organize, spread, call more people, get more people to call, and to really start building the momentum on this. And I want you all to know that the goal here is for this to really start to bloom. Tuesday is a major showdown, but it is not the last showdown. It is the first major showdown that we have, culminating before it goes to a House floor vote. And I also want you to know that there are, in fact, many vulnerable members on that committee. And as we present amendments, they're gonna think that they're slick. They think, and when I say that, what it means is that every amendment, there are people who are in really tight seats and they think they can get out of a political bind by walking away from the committee and not showing up for the vote. Yes, they're going to try to not show up for the vote because they are so scared of having a record on this, and because they are not used to people following what happens in committee. So usually, if a vote is tough, you can just take a walk on it, literally leave the room while the vote is happening, and they don't expect people at home to know that they are skipping votes, because committee votes usually aren't as tracked by the public. And so by tracking it now, by blowing this stuff up now, by putting shining a light on it now in committee, they're going to get in trouble if they take a walk. Their communities are going to start to know that they're skipping votes. And so paying as much attention as possible. If you're a kind of person that like cuts clips or things like that, watching the hearings, having it on in the background, just making the view counts high, commenting on their Instagram posts, on their Twitter posts, etc., digitally, physically in their town halls, asking them about it, in phones, in voicemails. A lot of them are running away and they're not hosting town halls, so you have to find them online, find them in committee. And so we want to make sure that we are amping up that pressure as much as possible. So someone said, for those of us who are just joining, once again, go to the link in my bio, ocasio-cortez.com/Save Medicaid. In the next 72-ish hours, maybe to 80-ish hours, by around Wednesday, or Tuesday at midnight, between Tuesday and Wednesday. Up until then, I'd say, call, type in your zip code, see if you're represented by an Energy and Commerce Committee member, and give them that call. There's a call script. That's what we want you to do. So thank you all so much. So deeply appreciate it. And now I'll see what kind of questions you all have. I'll try to take maybe one or two. But I want to thank you so much. Someone said, my husband and I were volunteers and I got to meet you in Salt Lake City. Thank you so much for volunteering on the tour. Salt Lake City was amazing. A lot of what has been happening on this tour has been really, really incredible. We are in the heart, yes, we went to Denver. Yes, we went to Los Angeles, but many of these stops have been in the heart of very Republican districts. And I want to say that there is something as horrifying as what we see, happening out of this administration. There is something very powerful happening among people across the country. The people who are showing up to our rallies are not the people that are not solely the people that historically come to our rallies. There's plenty of those, and we're so deeply excited to every single person, whether you have been following and been supportive for years, or whether you're just tuning in to politics and what's happening right now. I know that Senator Sanders and I are so deeply grateful to every single person who's been showing up in this moment and coming together in community to our rallies. However, some of the exciting things that we're seeing, like for example in Las Vegas, a lot of people showing up to these things are showing up to their first ever political engagement. And so we are in a moment where things are dramatically aligning. There are a lot of Republicans that are coming to these rallies in a positive way. There are a lot of independents that are coming to these rallies, people with no party affiliation. There are a lot of people who are showing up for the first time. I think in Las Vegas, 50% of our RSVPs were brand new. That is kind of unprecedented in politics. And I am deeply, deeply hopeful despite the horrors that we are seeing right now. It is working. What this administration is trying to do is because they actually do not have the capacity to fully enforce the deportation machine that they are threatening. They are taking a Wizard of Oz kind of approach, which is an approach of mass intimidation and an approach that will be as televised as possible. Their goal is that if you make an example of 3 people, then millions of people will sit back and stop. They have done this on Palestine with the detainment of Mohsen, and I apologize if I'm saying last names incorrectly, Mohsen Maudawi, I think, but with Mohsen, Rumeysa, and Mahmoud Khalil, they detained 3 Palestinian or Palestinian rights advocates in an attempt to silence and politically silence free speech of anyone across the board, and in order to create a chilling effect. But 2 out of 3 of those individuals have been ordered to be released. And our goal is to make sure that Mahmoud is also able to be released back to his family as well. But that's just one example. They arrested Mayor Baraka of Newark yesterday because ICE there is a dispute over a lot of people don't know, like the reason that this altercation even happened is because that facility, I don't even believe has not even been given a certificate of occupancy by the city of Newark yet. And so there's a dispute, I believe, over whether that facility even has the proper clearances to even open or operate. And mind you, a lot of these facilities, ICE facilities, are being run by private prison companies. These are private prison companies, for-profit corporations. And that is the reason why the conditions in a lot of these detention facilities are so horrible. It's not because of some any sort of federal law. It's the opposite. It's because the Trump administration is funneling money to private prison companies. And in order for them to maximize their profits, they are not feeding people properly. They are not getting people proper health care and medical care. And they are doing things with maximum brutality possible because they are, in part, because this is a massive donor giveaway for private prison corporations. So understand that that is what is happening here. Those private prison companies, the two largest private prison companies that are benefiting the Trump administration, because they're also giving kickbacks to the campaigns over here, are Core Civic and Geo Group. And a lot of them, many private prison companies are publicly traded companies. You can literally look up the stock prices for Geo Group and Core Civic and look at their stock prices since the election. This is what it's all about. This right here is what it's all about. So anyways, we've got that's going on. And now what DHS is trying to say, again, they're using public intimidation because they know that they cannot come for us all. They know that they cannot come for us all. And recently what they said is that DHS is allegedly looking into arresting members of Congress who were showing up for their legal and constitutional obligation to conduct oversight. If anyone's breaking the law in this situation, it's not members of Congress, it's the Department of Homeland Security. It's people like Tom Homan and Secretary Kristi Noem. You lay a finger on someone, on Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman, on Representative, or any of the representatives that were there, you lay a finger on them, we are going to have a problem. Because the people who are breaking the law are the people who are not abiding by it. And it is enshrined in the law that members of Congress who show up to ICE and CBP facilities are required to be granted access, legally required to be granted access. And they legally cannot be inhibited from accessing these facilities to conduct their constitutional obligation to investigate and conduct oversight. So if Kristi Noem wants to break the law, that's on her. But it sure as hell is not someone like Representative Robert Menendez that needs to be arrested, okay? We need to be talking about ICE agent, the ICE agents and the cowardly policy of covering their faces. Covering their faces. And a lot of them are also covering their identification. These are public employees that are accountable to the public and accountable to Congress. And this idea that we are going to allow some kind of paramilitary force to bloom that is not in any way accountable to the Constitution of the United States, we got another thing coming. Because that right there, that kind of attitude is what is actually anti-American. That kind of attitude is what is actually treasonous, is to attack our Constitution and to attack the obligations that we have in our Constitution, to attack free speech, to attack the powers of Congress, to erode our ability to investigate and conduct oversight. That is what is un-American. And this administration and Kristi Noem spits on the American flag every time she does that nonsense. So I don't want to hear anything about America first. These people and this administration is putting America last by by acting like a man is who they are pledging allegiance to. That is not what this country is about. And it will never be what this country is about as long as I'm alive. I'll tell you that much. Anyways, that done pissed me off. So, folks say, what do we do? There are actions. There are a lot of if you are concerned, especially on the immigration front, there are plenty of advocacy organizations that are conducting actions outside of ICE detention centers, locally around you. If they are organizing one, I suggest you look that up. I maybe next time I go on live, I'll be able to provide you all a centralized resource like the one that we built for Medicaid today. I don't have that ready for you right now, but I am happy to start working on that as well. Someone said letters still good. Yes, letters are still great. And letters are still great. Physical actions, if you can show up, are really, really great. Red cards, circulating red cards. And again, that is one thing that I have provided in the past. Maybe I can see if we can put all of our toolkits on our website in an easily accessible way. But printing out and hanging up know your rights information, they need a warrant. They need a warrant, okay? Point blank, period. And it is important that everybody know their rights. Republicans are trying to traffic in something that is blatantly wrong. Representative Byron Donalds made a fool of himself on national television saying that constitutional rights are only for U.S. citizens. That is incorrect, because constitutional rights are about the land. They are about the soil of the United States of America. This is the land of the free, okay? That means that it is our government that is responsible for being held accountable to the standards of the Constitution of the United States. It's not that there are some people that have rights and other people that don't have rights. We are a nation of due process. The government is required to conduct itself along the standards of due process. It is the government that is required to the standards of respecting free speech. It is the government that is required for to honor and respect the requirements around illegal search and seizure. Don't let them think that it's on you. It's on them. They are the ones that are held and accountable to that standard. And they're going on television trying to rip the Constitution apart, trying to rip this flag apart, trying to tell people that America is not America, that it is the United States of Trump. And this country belongs to no one person. It just belongs to no one person. And millions of Americans have not been deployed, have not died in the streets, have not sacrificed everything to have our nation made a mockery of right now. Absolutely not. And so I say all of this because they want us to give up. They do these things that they know are going to carry on television. They think if you can arrest one mayor, then all the other mayors will stop then enforcing our rights. They think if you can just make an example of one person, of one member of Congress, and all 434 other ones will stand back. One of our biggest obligations is to continue to say no and to not be afraid. To not be afraid. So, and again, that's why they do these like big raids in Boston on one day or in DC on another day, because they want people to start making these things go viral so that we feel hopeless, so that we feel like nothing's going to happen, and that we're all staying afraid. And our main obligation is to not be afraid, to show up to the actions, to both engage electorally and to also engage in the activism that's happening in our community. And yes, to register to vote, to also be paying attention to what activists are saying in the backyard. A lot of times people think that being engaged is either or, that it's either about being electoral and voting is corny and like whatever, or it's all activism and then it's, but it's actually the combined power and engagement of both of these things that have prevented autocracies from taking over in other places and circumstances. So our rights are use it or lose it. Our responsibility right now is to use it. We can start in the next 72 hours. Go to the link in my bio, make some calls. I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.